Hey, everybody. How are you? Thanks for joining. I know this is not the usual stream time, but I am really excited. I had a chance to talk to the folks from Marky Sparky Toys. I have Ethan and Marky Sparky himself in the green room. I'm going to turn on their cameras. Hopefully, they're here and they can hear me. And I think we are going to just jump right into things. Mark, welcome very much to the stream. Ethan, welcome to the stream as well.
Hey, how you doing?
Great. For folks in the chat, I'm just going to say this early. I know we're streaming a little bit earlier than I usually would, more than ever in this one. If you watch this later, because I know a lot of you do, which is really nice, please leave questions or anything. Leave them in the chat, and we'll see if we can get them answered afterwards. We have some hot mic noise on you, Ethan.
Not at all.
Is that me?
I think it is you. Oh, it's calmed down. It's calmed down. It's all good.
It's good now. I think it was just me trying to get it situated.
There you go. No, it sounds great. For those of you who don't know, but I bet a lot of you do, Mark here is actually the inventor of the Nerf Bow and arrow. So I didn't mean to hit my camera, but you know what? I'll pretend that I did mean to do that. So since the 1991, there have been a lot of other products, a lot of other bows, and a lot of other cool stuff. And we're going to talk about a few of them. But first, I'm going to stop talking because you guys know I can talk too much. And I will let Mark and Ethan introduce themselves. Over to you guys.
Well, I'm Ethan. I am the president of Marky Sparky Toys. I've been in the business officially for about 4 years now. In my official capacity, and in my unofficial capacity, I've been in the business my whole life. As Mark is my dad, so it goes back.
I bet.
I'll claim him. My name's Mark, and I'm the founder of Marky Sparky. Been around the toy business since I was 8, basically. That's a long time. My dad worked in the toy business and in marketing, and so I pretty much was raised via Mattel Toys.
Oh, that's really cool. So did you get a lot of you had a lot of sneak peek or early access to toys?
I had, yeah. My dad would, my bedtime was like, 7, 8 o'clock, something like that. And he would come home late from work because he was in marketing, and he'd bring me home like the first Hot Wheels, the first Sizzler track, the first Slime was a Mattel product way back when. So, yeah, I would get the first of everything. The second part is that I wouldn't get any other toys. I couldn't get toys from any other toy company.
Oh, right. I'm going to interrupt for just 1 second. Just Ethan, there's a lot of noise on your mic.
I think the problem is I have a lot of hair. Let's see if I can fix that.
It sounds pretty good now. It almost sounded like a air conditioner or a fan or something. But now it sounds pretty good.
Okay.
Could that be literally the air going on, Ethan?
It is entirely possible.
I'll shut it off.
You sound good. You sound good now.
Until it goes on again. Okay.
I didn't want anybody to miss anything since we were literally talking about exclusive access to all of the biggest toys when some of us people of more advanced ages were young. And even younger people, because like toys, as I'm sure you've noticed, toys are kind of in a cycle. Like there's a lot of toys that are the toy aisles don't actually look as different in mainstream toy aisles anyway as when we were kids, except like not as cool in some ways. For some of those bigger things, like the big names and all of that.
I was actually taking a walk the other day through Target, just taking a stroll, and I walked, as I always do, through that like Nerf blaster aisle. It looked to me very different than it did even 5 years ago. And the shift to me is companies making a decision to not worry about toy safety testing and go for the 14 and up. It's not that they're trying to make unsafe toys. They're not making
Yeah.
toys anymore. They're making sporting goods. That you'll walk through the aisle, and I took a video because it was really interesting to me. 14 and up, 14 and up, 14 and up. All these products are 14 and up, which means they don't pass ASTM 17 safety ratings.
Yeah.
So they have to be classified as, you know, a sporting good or some other kind that's not a toy. And I think it's toy companies realizing that people want higher powered stuff, and that the consumer maybe doesn't understand the difference between a toy and not a toy, and that what that safety testing means. But they're
Right.
putting them on the shelves right next to the 8 and up products. So you have the high powered gel blasters, the high powered Nerf blasters right next to the lower powered ones. And they seem presented as the same, but it is a stark difference from what it used to be.
Yeah, that's something that actually worries me a fair. I mean, it only worries me to a point, I guess. But I mean, it does worry me that, especially when you get like, there's lots of blasters that are new that are great, like the Nexus Pro and all the things that are these pro blasters. But so many kids would be getting these that would have no idea. Like, I do kind of fear that there's some sort of like bad accident imminent from someone who just didn't understand how hard this, something was going to hit. And I don't know. I'm interested in all of it because I'm a hobbyist. I have a lot of things, but I almost feel a lot of arc that a lot of people go on is something really high. If you're getting into it as an adult, something really high powered kind of brings you in, and then you get interested in everything else. So I've almost had a backwards trajectory of like, oh, Nerf rival and faster and faster and faster things. Whereas now I'm more interested in like the older toys or just gimmicks.
Yeah,
What is
I think that's
here?
I don't know. I think
Go ahead.
that's absolutely true. That a lot of people get brought in by that shiny thing. I think it's like with any hobby, you get brought in by the shiniest, most marketed, highest powered thing. This could be with Nerf. This could be with other hobbies, but I think it really is a trajectory that a lot of things are pushing towards. When you look at the balance of that aisle of what things are, and you can really just tell by the age rating, because and I think that's a problem. The styling and the age rating don't seem to be correlated. Obviously, and I checked, they're not like doing 14 and up Roblox blasters, which is good. But they do have the 8 and up Roblox blasters right next to a 14 and up fill in the blank, Nerf blaster that is really high powered and shoots at a higher FPS than my airsoft guns growing up did. And there's just an incongruency there that, it's probably not the kid's job to decide, but the parent reading these boxes, it's on the same shelf, it's presented in very similar packaging. Why would you think they're different? One is very different than the other.
Right. And
The question becomes why? I mean, why does everybody want that? Does everybody want that? So that particular design philosophy is low-hanging fruit. It's easy stuff. You can make anything shoot fast. It's really hard to make something shoot fun. That's the hard part. Anybody can make anything fly faster, straighter, more active. But to make it fun is a whole different game.
Right. No, I agree. It's funny. I had some friends over a while ago in my backyard. We had a little Nerf battle. I'll had my friends over just like when I was a kid, except add 35 years to 10-year-old me, and we played with a bunch of high-powered stuff and expensive Nerf foam firing stuff. Our favorite round of the day was we had a bunch of Nerf rough guns. So 60 FPS. Arcing those Nerf darts, and we're like, oh, you know what? That was probably the most laughs, the most fun. So it is. You get into that bit of a trap of like chasing the higher and higher stuff. So as a company, you have an interesting selection of bows because you have everything from very, very kid friendly to something like the recurve, which is that hits pretty hard.
It does. Yeah, we pride ourselves on that like wide gamut of of toys and sporting goods because several of them are not toys. But we do have I don't know if you're about to pull up, but we have This one here is our blaster. This is what we say if you're going to get into this is the Scout, the Phobo Scout. Yeah, exactly. If you're going to get into a Nerf blaster or a Nerf war and you want to have a bow and arrow, this is the way to go. You want to join? Okay. It's got just the right amount of power. When you get hit with it, it doesn't feel like anything. It's super lightweight. Anything more than that, I think, is unreasonable when everyone else is playing with blasters. And again, it's not what you're looking for. It's what experience are you looking for?
I agree.
And that's so important. It's not an arms race. Anyone can make, like Mark said, anyone can make things that shoot hard.
Yeah, this one is very much like I would take this into a Nerf battle, not worry about hitting people, in the field. Now, this one, the recurve,
it's totally different.
Totally different and meant to be different. This is the one that I usually bring out. This is with friends, and we'll set up some targets, and we'll maybe make a bit of a contest of it, or maybe in the summer have a beer or something while doing it. But it's so much fun. And I'm sure you guys, I kind of wonder, because I get this question all the time, especially when you're showing off the pro things. I'm doing air quotes, you can't see them. Pro. You'll get people saying, in Nerf, they say, well, why don't you just do airsoft, bro? And I'm sure with this, you would get people going, why don't you just shoot a real bow?
Right.
And it's like, well.
These are fantastic questions, though. Yeah, it's obvious reasons for both. Like, why bother with this if you just shoot a real bow? A simple answer is you have to be really careful with a real bow. You could impale someone. And that means you should be really careful about where your target is, what's behind your target, what's your target made of.
Yeah.
Supervision, if you're handing it to kids, you got to be worried to some extent. Those are all really good reasons to have a bow like this. Another really good reason to have a bow like this is the arrows are really durable. They're flexible. You don't have to worry about breaking the arrows. I mean, there's a myriad of different things. You can shoot at different targets. And if you're crazy, you can shoot at each other. They hurt a lot. When these arrows hit you, they hurt similar to paintballs. It was designed to be kind of the archery equivalent of paintball. But we do not think that it is an appropriate thing to bring to a Nerf battle. It's a different category. That's why we make the lower end of our bows, the proteges and the scouts, because there's really a place for all of it, and it's really just deciding what power scale you want to be on.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. Like, that's always the obvious. Like, I'll even get, I mean, we all know what the internet's like. I'll get people saying, "Oh, bro, just get a real gun." I'm like, right. That's very useful for having fun times with my friends. Like, come on, guys. Like, try to remember the point is to play. I'm gonna pop over to the chat for a second and just kind of catch up here, because I always like to say hi to people. We have
while you're doing that, can I say something?
Yeah, go for it.
So your audience, most of the what you call the Nerf, the blaster people, you use a language of shooting, FPS and stuff like that. And as a designer / inventor, I use a completely different language. You say, why do you like to shoot that? I'm not looking for something to necessarily shoot. I'm just looking for something that's fun to do, an activity. And when you say, why don't you just shoot an arrow? I shoot arrows. I started in 9th grade shooting like a bow, and that was my thing. But it wasn't until I started working into the Nerf bow and arrow thing. It really wasn't a Nerf bow and arrow when it started. It was a blaster ball, and I had to figure out what to shoot with that blaster ball system. So I'm looking for something that's visceral, that's just fun to do. And if I can find something that's fun to do, whether it shoots or rolls or whatever, it needs to have that feeling, which is what but you have a different language for that.
Right.
We say, okay, look, that's a feature. That's just literally a feature. But Ethan knows, and I know, that when we started playing with this many years ago, it started with.
I'm gonna interrupt for 1 second. I hate you, but there's that
background noise
on. I don't know.
Talk a little bit, Ethan. It'll shut it off.
Might be close to your mic.
It's my mic. Am I the
See that?
problem here
Yeah,
again?
You know
every
what?
time you talk, it shuts off.
When you talk, you sound really clear. When you're not talking, it gets loud.
That's how he keeps
Is it
me
still
quiet.
happening right now?
No, you're good right now.
All right, I'm gonna blame this on
anyway,
Apple products.
This is how this is how we started with a PVC pipe and a string. Okay, and so it became something that we wanted to do over and over again. It wasn't about, oh, we're shooting an arrow. It's about we're doing an activity that we like to do. So it's a different language. That's a design language. That's an inventing language. It's how you make money language, where you're, well, if I like to do it over and over again, my audience wants to do it over and over again. So I'm always looking for something new to do. I mean, you could say the word shoot, launch, fire, all of that. But I'm so bored with the little darts, the Nerf darts. That all started with a foam tube with fins. So I never envisioned removing the fins. Somebody else, shrunk it down. Even my little shrinky darts that we made for Just Toys and they're that line, I always had fins on them because that was my design language. Anyway, now it's different. Now it's the dart. I liked when they came out with the ball and the disc and all that stuff. But it needs to be compelling.
What do you think, Ethan? And that way it'll turn that hum off if you say something.
Yeah.
I am excited by all things new. I love the rival ball, or the rivals that are the balls.
Yep, you got it.
I think those are the most fun of that blaster category. It's the newest thing, but I'm of a similar feeling that many of the new things that come out every year are reshells and reskins of old products, and I'm really excited by new technology, new designs. I thought when those balls came out, they were cool. The discs are cool, but when people ask what our favorite blasters are, what excites us, did you see the new one? Did you see the this one that came out? Not really, because there's not a whole lot that is new about them besides the styling. I'll mute myself in between speaking so we don't have this problem.
Okay, sorry about that. I agree. Like rival was what kind of got me into it. And Nerf Talk in the chat, he just mentioned Mega XL was pretty fun. So those were the really big, oversized blue darts. And I mean, to me, it's almost more, while everyone's firing half darts, with a friend of mine, we invented kind of a wrist-mounted blaster to launch the big Mega XL darts. Like, I love Mega XL. I love rockets, and that's why I still love the old, the older arrows. And when Mark, when you were saying, looking for something to do, like, that's why, even though I have so many blasters, when I was telling the story before the stream started, I was in a Mastermind Toys and I saw the faux bow and I was like, oh, that looks really nice for, truly, I was like, that looks really nice for, for a toy bow. That looks pretty high quality. And I thought about it. I went home, I Googled it, and I saw a Drax video a couple years ago. He came in to visit, and I was like, oh, okay, well, that looks good. And I went back and I got a couple, and I got them because it's a different action. Like, it's a different, firing a bow is a very different thing to firing a blaster. I really like making up games, and I run some events and parties sometimes. So I like doing things where maybe you're having a Nerf battle and you have to do an objective with a bow. You have to pick up a bow. I'm excited about the javelin. We'll talk more about that after, but I'm excited about the javelin because I absolutely, when summer gets back, I want to have objectives where you're fighting over getting to the javelins, and then you need to you need to hit something with them, or you need to use that for something specific. Like, the more things you have to goof around, that's the advantage of Nerf stuff for me, is that unlike airsoft or paintball where it's one projectile, Nerf has everything from arrows to rocket. I mean, I'm getting on a Nerf tangent, that's probably natural for me to do. But it's the same thing. I like all the different things. Like, I love the old ballistic balls, vortex discs, like all that stuff it's all fun. People need to remember there's more than just little short darts.
I'm really excited. Speaking of things I'm excited about and what I look for, I really love big cartoony stuff. Like when you're talking about the big mega darts or whatever those names were,
Yeah.
I that's what compels me. I had a lot of Nerf blasters growing up, but they were all, many of them had shot the standard darts. And to me, I was the kind of, yeah, see, those are fun. To me, the shooting many darts was always stressful to me because the moment I pulled the trigger, I was always worried about picking them up. It was just stressful to have to go pick them up, and so it stopped me from shooting them. Larger projectiles, where it is a countable number of things that's very visible, they're big and cartoony and fun. It's obvious when they hit stuff. It's obvious where they are. That excites me. So I like those, giant foam chunky things, and that's why I like shooting big, clown-sized arrows. It's more fun. It's playful.
Yeah. So tell me, one thing I am kind of curious about, like, obviously there's a lot of love. Is archery a real? Because there are a lot of arrow products. Is regular archery a real passion, or is it just kind of a passion for the toy activity of bow and arrows? So why so many bows? I guess
I don't know if you can see behind Mark, but if Mark were to
I
pan
can't.
his camera up into the stage right, you'll see our personal bow collection. We have several bows each up there that are real bows, recurve bows, long bows. There's a couple of compound bows, but those ones are for research. Our
How
passion
many
was
times have you
really
gone
started.
hunting there, Ethan?
I've gone hunting 0 times. Not interested at the moment, but really what compels me is just the act of archery. I love bows and the craft of making bows. From a young age, I was compelled by archery as a concept and as an activity. I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. I got a bow when I was young. Much the same. Mark started shooting what? You were like 13?
9.
9. There we go. Bad
Ninth
history.
grade. I'm sorry. You're right. 13, ninth grade. Yeah.
Nailed it. So we both got pulled into this cool activity of archery when we were really young, and the real part of archery compels us. We wanted to make it more accessible. You can't. Not everyone has the space to shoot real bows in their
For sure.
backyard or can afford to go to a range often when they're young. It is not the most accessible sport, especially if you live not in a rural area. The people who live on big plots of land in the Midwest are laughing at me, going, "We can all shoot," and that's great for you. But I grew up in suburbia San Diego, and that was not a reality. So making it more accessible is really something we're passionate about.
Hey, Lieutenant Labyrinth said something very interesting. Keep your mouth, keep quiet, Lieutenant. There, don't talk about things like that.
Lieutenant Labyrinth, I appreciate that you said compound bow. I thought someone was saying crossbow. Oh, someone was
Yeah,
asking
somebody
about
did say
crossbows.
crossbow.
I'll say this, as I can't speak for Nerf. They don't consult me. But as for our company, we don't have any plans to make a crossbow. We don't make any products with triggers for a variety of reasons. Most of them are not the political reasons that people would think, although some of them are. We're in California. We're a little bit more sensitive to this issue. But the biggest reason we don't make things with triggers is just it's a safety thing. We make higher powered stuff. I mean, if you pull back the recurve, it's 18-pound pulls, shoot an arrow like 250 feet. It's a lot of power. One of the safety features of that bow is that if you're not strong enough to pull it back, it doesn't do anything. Unlike a crossbow, which you can store that energy. That stored energy makes it dangerous. Anyone can pull the trigger. So that's one of the reasons we stay away from things with triggers, including crossbows.
And a lot of, I'm sure too, like for product cycles and like where you want things to be as easy to get to market as possible. I'm sure it saves you. I don't know that much about it, other than I know once you have a trigger, it does. There's certainly more testing and precautions once you get.
This is Ethan's answer. This was your answer. When I was Ethan's age, I didn't want to do anything with a trigger because I watched kids play. And when a kid's running around, playing, in a field, running, the chances they're going to accidentally pull that trigger are great. So I didn't want the misfire, not because it was going to hurt somebody, because you're making something that already is toy safe. It's that the action of running is inexact. Okay, stopping and purposely pulling something back and shooting is exacting. You have to think about that. You don't have to think about cocking something and closing your eyes and pulling. It just happens. And I didn't think that was all that fun as a kid. I wanted something that you had to think about and you had to practice. You know, pulling a trigger. I've made plenty of trigger action guns in the Nerf category, in the blaster category. I did a whole, but it was to make money. It wasn't to make a compelling toy. You know, that's a whole
I,
different.
I'd love to speak to the engineering, and I will call it engineering behind this
Yeah.
bow. I I did not personally design this bow. Okay, I am not a designer, but I oversaw the designing of this bow, and I know what my designer went through. This product took us about 2 years to design and fully manufacture. This was harder than a trigger. We learned, we've made several bows before this one. You know, we had 10 years of bow lineage, not including the original Nerf bow, before embarking on making, you know, this real recurve bow. And we learned so much about how highly engineered these products are. It is so specific. All of the distances and angles between all these parts and the departure angle of the limbs and how the string connects to the limbs and the angle that the arrow needs to be in relation from where it knocks right here on the string to the riser, and designing this thing to be ambidextrous so you could flip it upside down and have it be a left or right-handed bow was inordinately harder than making a trigger, which isn't to say it's easy to make a trigger, but that is a known quantity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really nice. So it's interesting. Like it's kind of interesting that you. I mean, I almost feel like you were a little bit ahead of the curve. What an unintentional pun. But
Ahead of the recurve.
right now, we have a really big trend in the foam blaster space of now everything's pro. Like you were saying, a lot of the things on the shelf that are, you know, hitting harder for, you know, trigger power blasters and Nerf and otherwise, everything's pro and everything's, you know, that desire for, you know, faster. It's interesting that, you know, you were going pro first. So it's just, I think that's kind of an interesting thing.
Why
And
do you think that is?
I kind of wonder with this one, because honestly, I got, you know, you get it, and I'm always really curious about, you know, not that we're going to get into that, but I'm always curious about like thinking of the challenges of like doing, you know, getting a product to market and having good margins on it, and how, you know, the balance between selling a lot of a cheaper product or a few of a more expensive one. And I almost kind of wondered when I first tried this one, did they just get carried away?
Very quickly,
so
the answer
high-end.
is yes. It's really fun. Mark, do you have a protege behind you somewhere? Can you grab
Yes,
a
I
protege
do.
if you have one?
Do I have to?
I mean, only if you would humor me. It's speaking of getting carried away, because it's very real. This bow, like I said, took us about 2 years to make, and the intention when we started making it was for it to hit a $50 to $60 price point for ages 6 and up. The product that Mark is holding is the Fobo Protege, and that's what that product is. But that's what this was supposed to be. What happened was in design, it got so cool and so over-engineered, we went, all right, you know what? This is going to be the bow we want to make, and then we will make the bow that is you know,
A toy.
for that slot in the market. This is the bow we wanted to make for us. We wanted to play with this, and so we made it. And we believed strongly enough in our desire to play with it and use it. We thought, you know, we want to do this badly enough that other people will also want to do this. And so far, we've
But
been
it
right.
wasn't because of FPS. Had
No,
nothing
it
to do
had
with
nothing to do with
FPS.
FPS. It had to do with we want to knock stuff over at you know, 40 yards.
At distance, yeah, right.
Yeah.
We wanted to shoot each other from a distance. So I posed the question to you before, why? Why do we want to, or how did that happen? It's an easy explanation for me. It's because we could. This was the original Nerf bow and arrow redo that I did. Basically, it's exactly the same size and shape as the Nerf bow and arrow, only I did this maybe 20 years as opposed to 30 years when the Nerf one was done in 92, I think, 91, 92. So this came about because we learned how to make, where did that go? we learned how to make these tubes. Okay, that this took a place of foam, and we learned how to do it. So once I figured that out, and I could get rid of the foam that tears and the fins tear off, these things shoot great and don't hurt anybody. The Nerf bow and arrow started out life shooting about 100 feet, basically. And I speak in feet, not FPS. Because of safety, and when I was working at Parker Brothers, they had safety department, and you'd hand it to the safety department, and they'd all freak out because you had a bow and arrow. That once it went through testing, it took my 100-foot bow and made it a 30-foot bow. This was one of the originals, right here. This was 1992. I got it right off the line, signed it, and had it done. I've had this for years. This only shot about 30 feet when it first came out. First thing I did was cut the tip off because they had that rounded tip that acted as a governor. Of course, I ruined the value of the original, but I didn't know that back then. So this is what I wanted it to do, but so then the reason I say this is because it came out at 30 feet. I wanted it to come out at 100 feet. The reason I could do that was because I wasn't Parker Brothers.
Right.
We could make what we wanted and not worry about it because we knew it was safe enough. It was plenty safe for kids to play with. And so as we move forward, it's not that we want to make things faster or slower or this or that. We want to make things that please ourselves. And that's why we make things shoot the way they do, not because of FPS. We don't care what's on the box. We never put how far things shoot on our products. They just please you. They're fun to shoot. That's it. Lecture over.
No, I like it. I agree. Fun is the point. I do feel like in any hobby you can almost, and maybe that's part of the process is people get into almost an arms race of bigger, stronger, faster, and kind of can lose sight a little bit of, is it still fun? I know for me, so I go, again, Nerf example, but like there's some friends I play some games with a city over, and every time we get together, they talk about raising the speed caps, the FPS caps a little bit and a little bit more. But the last time I went and they had more games that were, things shot harder. Well, my daughter would go with me and she's like, oh, I don't really want to play anymore. Like you gotta, it depends if it's all adults, great. But like, you gotta keep it fun. Fun.
Here's a great example. Do you remember this?
Oh, I sure do. I have one.
So this when I invented this, it was in anticipation of knowing that air was going to be king. Pressurized air is free. And what proved it was Laramie and super soakers. So a super soaker had stored energy, and you could release it. And that was a power source versus pull a spring back. And when you let go of the bow and arrow, it makes a hideous sound of spring going bah, 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 bah. And I hated that. So I invented this gun that used a Laramie super soaker pressure and a little valve. So when you pulled the trigger, it just let a little bit of air out at a time. It was insanely cool. It would shoot a dart, and I used at the time what you call a dart, no fins, just put it in the hole, shoot it. And that air pressure was plenty to shoot 15 or 20 darts with one super soaker thing.
Wow.
It was such a cool gun, and it goes back to safety. So when this finally came out, I was super excited. I thought this was going to be my retirement right here. It came out, and I believe it was the same 30 feet, something like that. It was weak sauce. I hated it. I kept it, but I hated it. And they called it the Hornet, and put all this fancy stuff on it. It was simply the best shooting gun out there. This thing would shoot a straight line at 60, 70 feet. It was a perfect gun, and it made no sound. A little pop, no spring sound. Oh, that was just music to my ears. They never executed this correctly. And then they came out, I think there is a bigger gun that shoots with air. It had lineage to this, royalties to this, but they never stayed with it. They kept adding springs back to their guns, and I just have always hated the sound of that spring.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I you look back at things through like rose-colored glasses too. I really like the Hornet. I would love to have a Hornet that was what it was supposed to be. But
Oh, ugh,
so
yes.
I'm guessing that a lot of that is what drove you to Marky Sparky Toys and doing your own. It was that a big driver, just to have the freedom to.
I was inventing lots of stuff. I worked at Parker Brothers, left that, and I started another company. It had nothing to do with toys. It was a candy company. And then I did that. I ended up working at Mattel for a couple of years. And then I eventually sold the candy company and had sort of nothing to do. So between that and getting married, I went back into inventing and licensing toys, licensing product. And so the first person I went to was a company called Just Toys, who made a living of knocking my stuff off when I was working at Parker Brothers. They would just make, I had a bow and arrow, they'd make a tiny bow and arrow. I had a vortex football, they made a tiny vortex football. So I went to that company after I left Parker Brothers and said, hey, you've been knocking me off all these years. Maybe I could make this stuff for you and you pay me a royalty, which was a match made in heaven because they weren't inventing anything. They were just copying what I was doing over there. So now they had me all to themselves. So that was a living for me, and that's what started me back into the blaster business heavy. And now you'll see some of those Just Toys blasters re-emulated as Nerf blasters, rotating cylinders and stuff like that. There's a lot of mechanisms that were in those old blasters that are now in Nerf blasters. But that's what got me back into the inventing side of it. And then from there, I invented something that nobody wanted, and I just decided it was a scooter. And since nobody wanted it, I decided to make it myself, which was, the worst possible decision. Uh, it's far more lucrative to license product than make your own. So then I started a company making scooters. Sold a few, made a few, sold a few, made a few, and that led me back into toys, and that led me back into making another bow and arrow, and on and on.
So not the worst idea. It had a good path.
But you don't know that. It's so much more fun to make something in your garage with duct tape and a couple of cups and a paper plate, and then license it and then wait for your checks to come in, than it is to create an entire company. That's just much harder.
Yeah. No, I can. I mean, this is on a microscopic scale, but even I've done a few things where done like designed a mod or something like that for something, or did a mod, and then like, oh, this is really cool, and like, well, maybe I'll sell a few and help fund a trip, a Nerf trip or something like that, and then you fill a few orders and you're like, oh, I don't want to do these anymore. I want to do another fun thing that I'm duct taping together or roughing together. I don't want to make the same thing over and over. So, I mean, much smaller scale, but I think I get it though.
I think that hits on a. Sorry, I'm touching my mic. My friends always ask me, or people make comments when they find out I work for a toy company. They go, oh my God, you work for a toy company. That must be the most fun thing in the world. You just play with toys all day.
Careful.
And the reality of it is that I work for a toy company, but we are a business. And most of the toy company is not the making of the toys. That's the fun part, is the putting the duct tape around stuff and making the thing and going outside and testing and go, oh my God, we made something really cool. And then you spend the next year and a half doing the grinding and the grunt work to get it through fruition, to do the manufacturing, to get it in the warehouse and then market it and sell it. And most of it is not the playing with the toys, and just the realities of business hit hard.
Yeah, for sure. I just want to acknowledge in the chat, I see my pal Vintage Nerf. He just said fun per second for FPS.
I like that. Yeah,
He actually has one of the biggest collections of vintage inbox Nerf you've ever seen. I've met him. I actually bought my Nerf bow and arrow from him. We'd never met before. I met him in a parking lot on my way back from Maryland, somewhere in the middle. We did a trunk deal. I'm sure people thought I was buying drugs from them, and I came away with a Nerf bow and arrow box and some other vintage toys, and we went from there. But we keep in touch. So I just wanted to.
What's the most
say hello to you.
valuable Nerf thing out there? Like the most valued something?
So this is kind of a funny thing, and I think maybe eventually this will change. But this is interesting. I always tell people one of the coolest things about collecting Nerf stuff is that it's all affordable, even the oldest, coolest things, because it's nearly worthless. The bad thing is once you have a lot of it, it's nearly worthless. So I mean, I say that kind of tongue in cheek, but like there's I have things that are really, really rare, but honestly, you could probably find, I have a Sharp 92, which that's really easy to find, but the original darts that came with it, with the fins and the sucker head on it, those darts are really rare.
What's a Sharp 92? That's not a Nerf product, is it?
This is the knocking things over. Well, this is a re-release of it.
Oh yeah, okay.
One. But these are the original darts.
Yeah.
So I don't know anyone who has these darts, and I got this and the blaster for $20. So there are some exceptions. The 95 crossbow that goes for a lot on eBay. Everybody wants.
Wait! It's a 95. Oh, is it purple?
The purple one. Yep, you got it.
Ooh, I think I might have.
And a Supermax 2000 went for $1,400. I hear.
Yeah, I mean, was that like a? I didn't see it, but like, was that like a special one or prototype? Like, there are some things that are worth a little, but not as much as you'd expect for some things. But I mean, I don't mind it because it means if there is something that you're like, I'd really like to have that. If you're patient, you can kind of get it affordably. Like, I'm not collecting to make money. I've gone overboard.
It's curious though. I have a question for the audience. Of all the Nerf blasters, what is the best named Nerf blaster? What is the most popular name versus, Super Max? I mean, how many Super Maxes can you have out there? What's the most fun name that they ever came up with?
So chat, I'm gonna leave that with you, chat, and we'll check back here and see what ones. I think
Purple Manta.
Yeah, I was gonna say a lot of those ones in that realm are like the Manta Ray, the what's the one that has a chain Gatling, the old one with the crank, the Razor Beast, I think it's called.
Did they ever make up a name versus taking two words and putting them together? Did they ever come up with their own nomenclature?
Has anyone? There's
wait a minute. Wait, ho. Check out our line. We can't come up with a normal name.
Someone in the chat, AJ here, said the Strife.
There's a name. Yeah, it's true. Is that a good name?
It is a good. Leonard Pocket Rocket comes to mind.
Ouch. Yeah. And that's Leonard.
That's Leonard,
and actually, I had, for Just Toys, we had knuckle shots, which were fun. It was a thing that fit on your knuckles, and you pull them back and shoot them.
Yeah. My pal Nerf Talk in the chat, he said the Nemesis. Yeah, the rival Apollo. I mean, yeah, you get rival gets in all the Greek. Gets in all the Greek gods.
At least they have something to hang their hat on. It's like, okay, let's do all the Apollo. Okay.
Right. Yeah. No, I like a nice theme. Oh, welcome to my pal Matt Ritchie in the chat. He
double punch. Okay.
The double punch is a good one. My friend Matt usually does the stream with me. We usually do like a Friday night foam one. That's sometimes it's hard to do it on a Friday, so that's why this one's Thursday night foam. But yeah, sorry, chat. I haven't really been looking at you a whole lot, but thanks for. I'm so glad that so many people popped by. I want to ask a little bit about. I want to ask two more things, and I want to make sure we get there before we time out. I want to ask a little bit about the javelin and where. And
that's a cool toy.
the passion for the javelin, and I just want to hear a little bit about why'd you make it.
I have overwhelming passion for the javelin. Quiet. I have overwhelming passion for the javelin. This started as whenever we would be testing bows. It started back, like, especially with the recurve bow, we'd be out behind our building shooting the bow really far. And someone would have to shoot it, and someone would have to go get the arrows, because we were hand making the arrows at that time for that bow, and so we didn't have very many. So I would be the one to shag the arrows back, because I could throw the arrows. I would throw the arrows so far. And the way I could throw them farther than anyone, the reason was I would always throw them from the nock of the arrow, and I could throw them farther than the bows would shoot them. Not bragging.
Throw it by the butt, I believe, is the
throw it by the butt.
Yep.
So that went
that.
on for a long time, and I kept coming back to it as a concept, because I would just always we have arrows all over our office, and eventually, one day we said, let's just make a big one. And so we went to Home Depot and we got what was like a T8 light bulb tube. And we made a very crude tip, and we jammed some blue tape on the butt. And we started, and the moment we threw it in the parking lot, it was just like, yep, that's that. We're doing that. And it was magic. And so we started iterating and iterating and iterating. You got these fins, which you can rotate back and forth, which changes the direction of spin. If you're right or left-handed, it does matter. The tip is weighted. The balance is super important. We can throw these like 200 feet. They fly amazing. And we made it for throw and catch. That's the important part. This isn't like a, throw it at a target or throw it in a Nerf battle, though you could. It really was meant to be like a, please do. But it really was designed to be throw and catch. We're always in the parking lot just throwing back and forth to each other. It's so much more fun than a Frisbee. I'm sorry, Frisbee gods, wherever you be, this is more fun. And that really is the origin of the javelin. We couldn't be more proud. We started shipping it in this past December. So it's a very, very new product, but so far, so very good.
Oh, that's awesome. No, I mean, yeah, to me, this is like, I always love anything that's like the perfect kind of weird thing to throw into a game. Like, I really like the game making side of things. I think that's a fun place to, it's a great place for people who, because some people, the fun that they find in it is the competitive side and everything. And I'm not here to tell you how to have fun, but for me, this gives me a way to introduce something kind of goofy that even the people who take things really seriously, well, now they have like a cool objective. So they can kind of, they can run and gun and be tactical with like their short dart blaster, but then they have to like capture this thing and they have to throw it at a target, or they have to hit something with it. So like, as soon as I saw these, I was like, oh, I'm gonna end up having a lot of fun with these for that. So
we love discovering we love discovering all the fun things people are doing with them. I love the like interesting objective thing. Nerf Talk just put in chat javelin golf. 100%. We want to see this taking over the disc golf courses and annoying all the disc golfers. But like, come on, it'd be super fun to throw javelins at the disc golf course.
I never thought that. That's a great idea.
Like ultimate frisbee, but like ultimate stick is so much fun. It's really a blast. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's really cool. I think
if you look at all the ads we're running, it's the catching of it is a blast. It is so much fun to catch because it's so easy but looks so hard.
Right.
I mean, when you catch it, it looks like you shouldn't be doing that, and whoever's watching you is like amazed. But it's not that hard, which is what's fun about it.
That's cool. So it's winter here. There's
so much snow.
So I've only thrown it basically in the backyard and then went and got it myself. So I haven't been able to catch it yet, but things are going to thaw soon. And I'll be able
to get some friends.
Do some catch. I do need to find some friends. The other thing I wanted to ask about is for probably, I guess, obvious reasons, we've been talking about like things that fire projectiles or things that are projectiles. You guys have a lot of other cool toys. I'd love to hear about some favorite toys that you don't throw or fire at people.
Well, you have me there because it's really difficult to find one of our toys that you don't throw. But if I had If I had to choose one, and I don't have one right here, unfortunately, but
What are you
flipping
looking
rings.
for?
We make this flipping rings. You got one hang on the wall? I actually have, yeah.
They
It
got to
is a
go on the
ring toss
website.
game that we designed to. We loved ring toss games. We hated picking rings up off the ground. Let me just grab it. It's right there on our wall.
Okay.
Well, we would
keep
go to trade shows and show this product. Not this product, another ring toss game I did. It drove us insane because 60% of the rings hit the floor. And you're as old as I am, you can't spend 4 days at a trade show picking rings up off the floor.
It's
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's this. It's going to be
I love
a little hard to demonstrate, but it mounts to the wall, and you throw the ring up here. Let's see if I can get it to work. And it's first to 21. It's
That's awesome.
just the most fun ring toss game, but the rings don't hit the floor. We have found great success playing rings with children, playing rings with adults, playing rings with drinks in hand.
College.
It is a great college game. That I would say is one that I have in my own home, and I play with friends all the time.
That's really cool. I'm backtracking myself a little bit, but one thing I have found is fun is I always enjoy taking, whether it's different blasters or toys or whatever, I'll like take them out to my parents. I'll go visit my parents and be like, hey, you should check this out. And they always get a kick out of it. They had a ton of fun back when, and the next time I need to get some footage of it because it's pretty fun. But my mom trying out the the bow and arrows and stuff. Like, I feel like when I've let them try things, like the more kind of big and physical the thing is, like the more interesting kind of they found it, and the more that the more like it's a fun thing to do with a group, whether you're firing, whether you're throwing a javelin, whether you're doing whatever. Like, as much as I obviously love Nerf and firing darts, I would, if I was sitting in the backyard with friends and had like a big goofy target set up, I would rather have a beer or something and throw this with my friends than plink darts. I mean, we might do a little bit of that too, but like, I like the idea of something that's maybe a little harder too. Like, if you're, more of a challenge, more chances to kind of like, I don't know, talk.
I completely agree. And there's something that we are so compelled by these big, almost clownish objects, like big, fun objects that take up a lot of space in our space. They're things that compel us to play with them. That's why one of the reasons, like making little things that sell well on Amazon because they ship well, it's
Right.
just boring. We're not interested. And it's one of the reasons I think Amazon is doing a lot of damage to creativity and product design in this world. Is anyone that is making product these days knows you design it to fit in the Amazon box. And if you don't,
Right.
your product is impossible to sell on Amazon, which means it's
Yeah.
really hard to sell it. We have made a product that is impossible to sell on Amazon because it is so gargantuan that it would be impossible to make money shipping it. We did this intentionally because it's a better product that way. And we've drawn a hard line of not allowing Amazon shipping to dictate our product design. But it is a thing you will see in the marketplace a lot. It is smaller things that ship better, but are not necessarily better products. And I agree with you. It's more fun to have these big space-taking things in our lives. They become compelling as opposed to the little dart shooters. Nerf Talk asked where to get the javelins. We have our website, thebadrap.com. You can also check us out at markysparkytoys.com, and you'll be able to find them there too. But
and if I don't know, if there's any trouble with, we'll talk Nerf Talk, because if there's any issue with getting them in Canada, because I know Nerf Talk is Canadian. I'm going to be in Maryland in a couple months, so just in case you're in, I'm always willing to do a pickup and mail within the country to spread the love. So we'll talk. I met Nerf Talk a few years ago. I know him from his channel, and we actually met up in Toronto one time while I was on a trip, and went to when Nerf briefly had their own little amusement park. I forget what they called it, but they had a bunch of like Nerf games and stuff. So we met there. So he's a YouTube friend, but we met in real life once. So that makes us pals forever. So anyway,
YouTube friends who meet once are pals forever.
Well, it's fun. I've met a lot of really, really great people. Mark was asking me, I think it was before the stream, who my favorite YouTuber is, which is hard now because I've become pals with a lot of my favorites. Well, everyone else
But
is obsessed with the
who's really
Kardashians.
your
I'm
favorite?
really
Now
into
that
And now we're live, so the answer is binding.
right.
Yeah.
Well, one of my so I have a really cop out answer. It kind of depends on what I'm looking for. If I if it's just for humor and for entertainment, Beret.Nerf on YouTube. I think he was in to visit you guys not long ago. He's got a great sense of humor, and I always appreciated before we ever met that he loves goofy stuff too. I would not be shocked if he had one of these that he would run it in a Nerf war and take footage of taking people out with it. Like, he loves the goofy side of things, so I've always loved his channel. So one of my favorites there, and and then there's so many great folks who've become. The great thing is when you're in a hobby space and you meet the celebrities, they're all, no one's a real celebrity, so you can just meet people and they give you help. And I joked with Brett. I went from being like a number one fanboy to giving him a drive to an Applebee's, and what a life arc that was to take it there. So a lot of good people in the hobby for sure.
making friends in the neighborhood.
That's right.
I think it's
That's
the
right.
most compelling kind of fame is very famous to a very small group of people, because then you can be anonymous when you want to and important when you want to.
Exactly. There's no fear of going out and doing everyday things. I
I
still
get sick
groceries.
of signing autographs on the street. People stopping me all the time. It's so tiring.
I bet everyone wants those selfies. That's the world we're
Yeah.
in. No, this has been awesome. I'm just gonna look at the chat here real quick.
Man with hat. Let's go. I like that.
I don't see man with hat. It's
It's at the top. Man with hat. Let's go. 1555.
someone said, can you Maritime Bum going to show us the Nerf Sentry? That little project is currently non-functional. Stay tuned, and I'll have that back live again. Yeah, I don't know. There's lots of good chatting in the chat. I'm sure I'll catch up with it another time.
Real quick, you mentioned goofy targets that you have in your backyard. Have you seen our play bale?
Yes.
We have the goofiest target that you can set up in your backyard. He's got it set up right behind him. It is just a bunch of dangling foam targets that it holds itself up and then it collapses into one. We designed it was for our arrows, but it's designed with Nerf in mind.
That's
so
awesome.
If anyone's looking for that kind of all-in-one target, we've got one as well.
Very, very, very cool. So I know we're getting close to the hour, but I don't like, you can just feel free to be like, oh, we don't want to share that, but like, how, like, in this world of like so many things being online and everything, like, how important is kind of is on the shelf sales still super relevant to you guys, or is it just like a smaller part of it these days, or is it mostly online? Just to that whole like question about like the packaging and staying Amazon friendly, and the other bad thing about Amazon is people get really used to never spending anything on shipping, which can be troublesome when you're selling things. That's really broad, but I guess I'm just curious, like, how important is on the shelf these days?
I could speak endlessly about Amazon and how it has affected our marketplace. And by our marketplace, I just mean consumer goods. On the shelf is still incredibly important to us. Our base for our business since we began has been specialty toy stores. There's about 1,000 mom and pop toy stores across the country at any given moment that we sell to. And we've done business with mid-tier accounts and big box in the past, but really specialty has been our core. And those in-person buys have been the base of our business. Amazon became a big part of our business 10 years ago, maybe more. And we did a lot of business on there. Unfortunately, that marketplace changed dramatically when they started allowing direct from factory sales, made changes to the ad structure, a lot of things. But the result has been it is a near impossible to compete with marketplace for American manufacturers because we have real businesses that we have overhead for. they don't manage their marketplace, meaning the copycats are rampant and almost impossible to deal with. So for us, those on the shelf buys are incredibly important. We also have made a shift away from Amazon. We still have some products on there, but very limited, and we kind of cut our ad spend, trying to shift direct to consumer on our own website. It's a big endeavor to create a direct to consumer brand. There's a huge cost associated with advertising and content creation. And I think you're right. The impact of the that Amazon has had on people's expectations for shipping are huge. People want free shipping on every order, and what they don't understand is when we ship them a $30 item across the country to Massachusetts in a rural area, that's probably going to cost us between $15 and $17.
Yeah.
And then the product cost, and then the advertising cost, and suddenly we're losing money on this product. But that's what Amazon does. So the expectation is that we all do it. And it's really hard to ask someone to pay more money for something when they could pay less on a different marketplace. We think of it as a long-term thing. If we put all of our business on Amazon, and by we, I mean American consumers or worldwide consumers, if we put all our eggs in that basket, we've seen what happens. The quality of the goods plummet. The cost also goes down, but in the end, what we end up is we receive garbage in the mail that we didn't want. We thought we ordered something else. We return it. And the only ones winning are Amazon, the big corporation, and the direct from factory sellers who are knocking off people trying to make an honest living.
Yeah, you started him on his soapbox.
Oh, that's okay.
Let me add one thing to that. Amazon in the toy business is about pictures. So if you see a picture on Amazon, it could be anything. It could be exactly a copy of our product, but the pictures are deceiving. And when you get it, you paid $10 less, but it's junk inside. So what we make is trust. You're going to pay a little more for our product because it just takes a lot of love to do what we do, to put into that product. And we put it into the product. We make toys and products that last and last and last and last, that are archival. They will not break. If they break, we stand behind them. You know where to find us. Amazon's about pictures. Companies like ours are like about quality and getting what you paid for. So that's simple.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, it's a great point. I mean, and I will say, like, sincerely, everything that I've tried is definitely super high quality. I mean, it's interesting. Nerf had recently, they put out that they tried another bow and arrow, and it would be a similar-ish form factor, but boy, was it not good. And I don't like to be. I'm
talking about the big bad bow.
No, I don't even know that it had an interesting name. I think it might have been one of those, they licensed the Nerf name and then another, like a third-party company made it. But
Franklin. I think Franklin did.
I think it was that recent Franklin one. And I don't think of myself as I'm not a mean YouTuber. I know that even like a bad product, like someone was probably doing their best with what they had, maybe, but it was just not fun. And there is the tipping point for me is when I think about a kid opening up a thing and money being spent on it and it being bad immediately. I don't have a lot of patience for that. So yeah, it's pretty. I would definitely say to anyone who hasn't tried anything from you guys, you're not going to have that. Everything is is really, really nice, from the texture on this to some of the other things too.
Dude Perfect bow. That's funny.
I do have it. It's funny. I find, because I collect a bit, as you can tell, and I was on the hunt for a Dude Perfect bow, and I found one with some arrows, and I was like, oh well, this would be interesting because I had your bow and arrow first. I'm like, oh, I kind of want to see how that big Dude Perfect one stacks up, and I will say, well, the Dude Perfect one looks really cool. I'll say that for it. It does not.
The kid age that
the
can
best.
do that, the kid that can play with that bow cannot pick it up. It's so heavy.
The Dude Perfect bow is a fantastic example of $100 and 60 pounds of marketing.
Yep, for sure.
And they knocked off our arrows, which is annoying to me.
Right. Well, yeah.
They got more money than God. They don't need to do that.
I definitely noticed the similarity. But it looks cool hanging up, but it is definitely not something I take out for play. But look, looked cool.
And they don't make them anymore. So,
No, it was one thing I really appreciate that you guys do, which is super rare in this world of when you buy a toy, the ammo or the whatever, the projectiles are so disposable. What you sell, they aren't disposable. But I also like that you do refill packs on things, because I find that's something that's pretty rare, because I like there's just a lot of products out there. There was I always get angry. I'll pick on Hasbro a second when you find those Marvel licensed toys that fire maybe little custom rings or like little weird projectiles. It comes with 5, and you'll never ever play with it again after you lose those 5 things, and it enrages me. Like, it's just such a blatant, we don't care if who bought this has fun. Like, how much more would it take to just make it some sort of common projectile, or just make it a dart, or make it, and I'm sure the reason is to kind of make it cheaper to get past laws and cheaper to get approved. But
it may be that. It may also be that they want an exclusive, that they want theirs set apart, something we believe so strongly in an industry and as a company who makes plastic toys. And this is something I battle with. I believe strongly that we make too much plastic stuff in this world. Single-use plastics are just everywhere. And you're putting me on a soapbox again, or I put myself there. But it's something that we have to be cognizant of. We're very focused on not putting things in our cardboard boxes in a plastic bag on the inside when it doesn't need to be. Simple things like that. But that's easy. The bigger extension of that is, don't make things that are single use. Single use doesn't just mean little plastic baggies. It means products that people go, oh, that's cool. And then they set down and it goes in the garbage and it never gets used again. These things that you're describing, these novelty Nerf blasters that are Marvel themed or whatever the license may be, and the ammo runs out because they only gave you 5 and they never produced more. That was made without the intention of it surviving. When Mark talks about us having archival toys that will last, part of that is the support that we believe these things will last 20, 40 years. And so we know people lose arrows. We're going to just keep making those arrows because we want your bow to matter in 20 years.
Roofs. That's how we stay in business. You're going to put your ammo on the roof, or you're going to put your ammo in the tree, but you will not break it. So that's job security for all of us.
Yeah, I definitely like the idea, and I do think there's a lot of value in making things that last. And maybe because I'm at like prime nostalgia age, where I'm nostalgic about like all the toys of my youth, and the fact that most of the toys of my youth, I still have, they're better quality than what I would buy today. They stand up, and it really kind of bothers me when there's a toy or something I'm trying where I'm like, this will, like, if my kid pulled this out of a box in 30 years, it's going to be garbage. Like, it's going to not work or not. And I don't know why I'm so worried about that, because I may or may not be, 30 years, hopefully I'm around. But like, I don't know why I'm so worried about that, but it bothers me. Like, I don't even like to play a board game that relies on an app on a phone. I'm like, how am I going to play that in the apocalypse? I won't be able to.
I'm totally with you. I hate that.
I want apocalypse-proof toys, please. So I don't know.
I agree. I think it is
years old right here.
I think it is irresponsible to make toys out of materials that degrade over time so quickly. There are materials that we know of as manufacturers. Hasbro knows this. There are certain TPUs, certain TPRs, certain rubbers that don't last. Polyurethane degrades quickly. That's why your armchair, the office chair at your office, that all of a sudden in 3 years it starts crumbling. That material degrades when it off gases, and these are known things. You make them out of these things when you know that the use won't be that long. They're horrific for doing it in chairs. We should not be making toys out of these materials. And when I see these on the shelves, I go, wow. I know that it looks beautiful now, and that's why they did it, but they also know that will fall apart in 3 years and turn to dust. I find that really irresponsible. And so we don't use those plastics, those materials that are known to fall apart within a lifespan. And you'll see they all fall apart on a dime. Like, all at once, that whole generation of toys will fall apart. And there's a reason for it. And they knew it when they made it.
We'll be there in the apocalypse with 0 toys. We'll have to go and find our old.
But we'll be able to
Marky
defend
Sparky bows.
ourselves with our bows.
This was awesome. I don't want to keep you guys too late. I usually try to do about an hour or so. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on. It was really great to talk to you both in person, and hopefully we'll be able to again at some point. If I'm ever out all the way over to your area of the world, I would love to swing by and say hello. Hello, Puppy. Thank you for joining the stream. If you'd been here earlier, Puppy, you would have increased our views tenfold. Better late than never.
Kona the Wonder Dog.
Thank you very much for having us on. We had a blast. We'd love to be on again. Please come visit if you're ever in town.
Awesome. No, that's great. I look forward to when Brett has a video up from chatting with you guys. I definitely look forward to that. I'm sure that will be fun. And for those of you watching, again, if you're watching this later because you missed the stream or whatever, if you have questions for Marky Sparky Toys, leave them in the comments and I will reach out and see if I can wrangle those questions, because these guys are a trove of knowledge. You don't get to talk to toy inventors every day. Come on. Thanks to everyone who joined. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate all of you.
Am I late? Yes, you're late.
Al the Geek. I will take a second just to say about Al the Geek. One of the friendliest guys that you could ever meet. A real a welcomer of all into the hobby. Someone I met, one of those people that I met through YouTube, then met in real life, but now we've actually hung out 4 or 5 times in person. We've traveled across the country together. So internet people can be real people too. So he's living proof. He's turned into one. And maybe we'll be real people to each other someday too in person. We'll see. But until then, we have the internet. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to end the stream as I always awkwardly search. You'd think I'd be better at this whole thing. I'm going to
be safe. Always wear your glasses.
That's right.
Wear eye protection.
Yes, always wear eye protection, especially if you're firing a recurve bow. Maybe don't fire that at people or from a long way away. That might. I won't tell you what to do. I'm not your mother. All right. Bye.